It's time to celebrate Canada. Happy Canada Day, everybody. My name's Jeremy Corrigan, and over the course of the next half hour, we are going to celebrate everything that makes us Canadian and so unique. Now this year, the city of Prince George turns 106 years old, and Canada turns 154 years old. And today we take a look at Prince George's heritage and that of our beautiful nation.
It's the oldest heritage building in Prince George, originally located at Sappage and Queensway, built in 1910.
Originally, it was in South Fort George, like you said, on the corner of Tappage and Queensway. Originally, it was not built as a school. It was built as a commercial building to be rented out. So it sort of has that rudimentary architectural look that's pretty standard of the 1910s, just built for function and purpose, not to be aesthetically pleasing. But it was rented in 1910 as a schoolhouse for 3 years.
So what else was happening in 1910? Well, Sir Wilfrid Laurier was Prime Minister and Richard McBride was BC's Premier. A decade later, Taylor House is built in Prince George. While an unassuming style, it's more noted for its residents. Fred Taylor, Alderman and Mayor, followed by Harry Perry, also Mayor in 1917.
That's what makes the balance with heritage properties, is the original owner and what the content and context of the original owner had to do as far as the city's concerned.
Nationally, Robert Borden was this country's Prime Minister and John Oliver was BC's Premier. Fast forward to 1939, the old post office. It represents one of the first modern classical federal government buildings, which for hundreds of years sported massive columns.
In the modern classical architecture, the government buildings, and this is true all across Canada, the columns were long gone. No more columns.
At the time, William Lyon Mackenzie King was Prime Minister and Thomas Dufferin Patula was the Premier of BC. And on September 10th, Canada declares war on Germany. 1953, the war is over and industry booms. The professional building is built.
This is the first really what I'd call functional commercial building, functional design for a commercial building in Prince George.
Louis St. Laurent is Canada's Prime Minister. Elizabeth II is crowned Queen of Canada on June 2nd, and W.A.C. Bennett is BC's Premier. Jump to 1960, and Prince George becomes home to the most unique architecture of a school, Quinson Elementary.
How can we improve the square box? And we ended up with a 5-sided classroom, a pentagon shape.
And while much has happened since then in this country, Trell Morrow has these words of wisdom.
And when these are gone, there is no more history, heritage history left in Prince George.
Happy birthday, Canada Day. Cheryl Jan, CKPG News.
Canada is often rated one of the most loved countries in the world. With that in mind, one local entrepreneur came up with the idea to let other Canadians express their thoughts and their love for the country through a clothing line he created.
Jesse Maurice has always had a deep sense of pride in Canada. Recently, he noticed divisions develop between provinces, and he wanted to create a brand to remind other Canadians how genuine we can be.
Canada, as you know, has been pretty divided over the last few years, with the elections and, now COVID. And I just wanted to bring a brand back to Canada that just shows our history, reunites us in a way. And just because deep down, Canada, we are fighters. We don't lose, right? Mm-hmm. We're not the people to mess with. So I wanted to create a brand to remind people of that, right? No more division, man. We need to unify. We're on top for a reason, so.
A short while ago, Maurice purchased a screening printing system. Almost daily, he prints clothing with the logo Tribe North.
12 years ago, I wanted to get into clothing, but I put that dream on hold for this long. And December, I just ordered all my equipment. I started watching videos, spent thousands of dollars ordering equipment without even having the knowledge. Because at that point, then there is no retreat, right?
Fueled with his Canadian pride, Maurice etched out a logo that conveys a proud Canuck.
The logo, Tribe North, you know, tribe. If you look it up in the dictionary, it's you know, a group of people, you know, usually blood related, but not necessarily, and just a community, right? And that's what Canada is. We are a community, and North is the opposite of South, right? So that's where I kind of just, I don't know, I just kind of just started it, and it was just like little accidents would happen, and I'm like, oh, that needs to stay. And then like with like, you know, a lot of the details and stuff, I'd be like, that looks like something, and then I'd Google it, and I'd be like, no way, Canada invented that? So then obviously it had to stay in the logo, right? So
The Tribe North logo integrates Canadian inventions and history.
I want to be able to show inspiration that, you know, change can be brought, and I see the effects of the youth of today, and that's kind of my push for starting this brand, is because I want to be able to give back.
He plans to expand the Tribe North brand to other products and continue to build on his grassroots pride for a country he is willing to share with the world. Dave Branco, CKPG News.
Canada Day is not only just about celebrating our country, but also the people who make up it. A lot of Canadians are or come from immigrants who came to Canada looking for a better life. Ollie Herrera spoke with one Prince George couple who did just that.
One of the great things about Canada is our status as a country who takes in people from all walks of life. No matter who you are or where you come from, this country gives the opportunity for people to find and create a better life for themselves and their loved ones. For Harjinder and Parmjeet, they took that opportunity New Year's Eve over 50 years ago when they landed in Prince George all the way from India.
5 years I my brother, I come India, right? My half brother, this leave 5, maybe?
No, 5 years.
5 years go on basement, you know.
We live with the,
This is my brother, nice brother.
They were in pursuit of a better life. Harjinder didn't have a job, and Parmjeet served in India's army.
I work in the army 5 years.
5 years go on a job army. India.
And army, you know, back home. Then I work in the department store.
Me no work in India.
When they arrived here, they did what they could in the beginning to get by. Harjinder didn't work for a few years, and Parmjeet started out as a taxi driver and continued that job for 7 years. He moved on to work at a lumber mill, and she went on to work as a helper at a restaurant. Eventually, they bought their first house, which they lived in for more than 40 years and started their family.
One was born in India. He was 2.5 years old. Yeah, born here, yeah, in 1973, yeah.
And their family quickly grew. Both their sons now have their own families, one here in Prince George, the other in Vancouver. But with their kids out of the nest, they wanted to continue to grow their family and give back. So Harjinder did it in the only way she knew, through her love of cooking.
I like time pass.
That's her hobby, you know.
I know too much ad, you know, no paper, no nothing.
People
Somebody
come.
phone, another phone.
They pick up from home, you
Yeah.
know.
And soon, their family expanded not by blood, but through the love of food.
One lady came, she picked up samosa somewhere else, and she took to the work, you know. She said nobody liked that, she come here. She said it's very good samosa, everybody like.
Everybody like it, you know, my samosa.
The couple is retired now, spending most of their days at home, but they're happy knowing that their family has a life they have now, and they can welcome new family members and take care of them through their love of food. You worked hard. How do you feel?
Oh, feel very good, you know.
Ollie Herrera, CKPG News.
Coming up next on Celebrating Canada, we dive into Canadian cuisine and the unique snacks which have come out of our country. Check out the tasty treats after the break. If you've lived in Prince George for a while, you probably have your favorite spots to go to. But if you're looking for something new, there are plenty of other options. Caden Fanshaw has more on how you can rediscover the region.
We've all been there at one point. Cottonwood Island, Cledley Tenay Memorial Park, Ginters, Moores Meadow, you get the point. Many spots just like these have become part of our lives living in Prince George. But there is a lot more to the region than just the parks within city limits. The Tabor Mountain Trail Network is just one of them.
We started off as a ski club, but we've become more of a all-around outdoor club because we hike here in the summertime. In the wintertime, there's many snowshoers, more snowshoers than there are skiers. And people come out and walk their dogs here, and yeah, just families. We have little kids here out here with their families and everything, yeah.
There are kilometers upon kilometers of trails that are upkept here thanks to people just like Norm, who put in hours of work to make sure they're passable. And while you're walking, there's often little pieces of history scattered along your route.
If you go up this trail here, we do have an old sawmill site that our friend has recreated. So we have a shelter up there and an old stove that we've dug out of the ground, and just to create some sawmill history up there.
Within an hour's drive, there are plenty of other options too. Lots of those trails, regular stops for the Caledonia Ramblers and Dave King.
Yeah, I really enjoy being out in nature and outdoors. And I mean, I was a wildlife biologist, so I had, that other connection also. And I still, if somebody said, "What's my church?" It's outdoors,
Dave and the Caledonia Ramblers have put in hundreds of hours of work, from restoring the ancient forest to the Giscombe Portage Trail this spring, both two places that should be in your plans at least once this summer. Those trails, both part of All Trails too, an online way to find some new hikes. You can see all the spots around Prince George. All Trails will actually guide you on the trail and track your progress. It's kind of like a GPS. But some would say the best way to rediscover the region is to become part of it.
I would strongly recommend that they do get in touch with one of the outdoor-oriented clubs, Caledonia Ramblers, Hickory Wing. There's the others, if they're more into the naturalist thing, the Prince George Naturalists, this kind of thing. There's the Alpine Club also. And, if they're more, start by getting sort of maybe a little bit involved and going on trips that they're being, organized, or activities that are being done. And, maybe going out and helping with some trail clearing or, other sort of things. And it just sort of grows.
I will say that we are an aging club, and we would welcome any new members to come and help us out. All of us are retired who do all the trail work here, and we're getting to the point where we're going to need some help soon. Otherwise, our trails are going to become disrepaired again.
But if you don't want to get involved, you can just enjoy it. To be clear, there isn't a right or a wrong way to rediscover the area. In so many ways, there are only endless possibilities. Caden Fanshaw, CKPG News.
Canada is home to a variety of tasty treats, many of which you can only find on this side of the border. Our TFS shares the best kept secrets when it comes to Canadian culinary.
Oh, hello there. Didn't see ya. I hope you're hungry as I've prepared a all-Canadian picnic. Yeah, that's right. I have the exclusive Canadian snacks only available here in Canada.
Ketchup chips and Kinder Surprises, you might be asking yourself, what do these two have in common? Well, I'll be sure to tell you. The sweet, the savory, the ketchup chip came about when Lay's, previously known as Hostess, tried their hand at a fruit-flavored chip. Now, they did try grape-flavored chips, and clearly that didn't work out, so they tried tomatoes, and thus came the ketchup chip. Why aren't they in the States? Well, clearly Americans don't have a sophisticated enough palate for ketchup chips. Dangerous? Yeah, the Kinder Surprises are apparently too dangerous for non-Canadians. The Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act in the States has banned any food that contains a choking hazard, like the surprise inside a Kinder Egg. So that means Americans aren't allowed to play with their food, but Canadians can have all the fun. Don't be the smartiest country in the room. Yeah, Smarties are another tasty treat only available in Canada. The States already have a less chocolatey version of this snack item, much like what we know here as Rockets, but are actually called Smarties across the border.
All right, now you know all the secrets that Canada has to hold, but let's head back to the station and see what else there is. Aside from the exclusively Canadian snacks, we also have a couple of Canadian classics. Goes without saying, maple syrup, poutine, and Nanaimo bars, and don't forget to wash it all down with the Caesar. There are so many to choose from, I decided to go ask my CKPG teammates what their favorite Canadian foods are.
Well, I'm going to be the very stereotypical Canadian. Vanilla dip donut from Tim Hortons, you know, the one with the little sprinkles. I mean, how can you go wrong with that? That's technically Canadian, right? Tim Hortons? Yeah.
I have to think about that one. Yeah. Oh, I got it. Maple syrup.
Foods. There's a lot of Canadian foods that I've grown up with, obviously being a Canadian. Poutine, first and foremost. I would honestly say the Nanaimo bar would probably be my first distinctly Canadian food that I enjoy. An interesting fact about the Nanaimo bar, there's actually a men's baseball team in Nanaimo. It's called the Nanaimo Night Owls. However, in the event they have a game in the afternoon, they are called the Nanaimo Bars. Interesting fact for you.
Thanks for snacking with me, and have yourself a tasty Canada Day.
Coming up next on Celebrating Canada, we take a look at our game of football and what makes it so much different than our neighbors to the south. More after the break. There's plenty when it comes to sports for us Canadians to be proud of. However, when it comes to our sports fields, there's one big difference compared to our neighbors to the south. Now, whether it's better or not, that's up for discussion for another day. But one thing that is for sure, it's definitely bigger.
I'm standing right here along the 55-yard line here at Massage Place Stadium, something that is distinctly Canadian when it comes to the sport of football. As for the Canadian football field itself, it measures out 150 yards long and 65 yards wide. Goal line to goal line, it's 110 yards, which is 10 yards longer than that of the American football field and 12 yards wider than the American football field. But when it comes to those who are close to the game of Canadian football, they know how special the game is to Canadians.
Well, Canadian football in general is unique. First of all, it's Canadian. It's our own sport. It's fast, it's fun, it's exciting, it's dynamic. It's something that we can call our own. You go all across this country and you see football fans cheering on Canadian football, all the way from junior football to youth sports now into CFL. You go anywhere. I was at a Dallas Cowboys game in Texas, and there were Saskatchewan Roughriders fans. It's a very fun game. I think Canadians should be very proud of it.
And yes, it's a game that brings with it a lengthy history.
It's been around for a considerable amount of time. The CFL, the Canadian Junior Football League, are two of the longest running leagues in North America. And that's just a testament to how great the game is.
Even Americans who come up to play in Canada come away with respect towards the Canadian game after playing on the larger field.
I think the game was a little bit more complicated up in Canada, to be honest. I think the concept of the game is good, but I think it's complicated on a lot of features, you know what I mean, with the field being so big. And I think that's the biggest difference from the U.S. game. Like it's simplified quite a bit, but like I tell you what, you see most guys who play in Canada and go back down to the NFL, they excel. Just because, they've had to learn so much in the game up here. And when you go down south, like look at my buddy Alex Singleton, like the game is slowed down so much because he's not looking at so much now, in the CFL game. He can just, he got 1-2 reads, for the Eagles. And, he's gone. You know what I mean? You talking about now, he's leading their team in tackles.
With the Canadian game, it brings some unique elements with it. For instance, the waggle.
I think the biggest thing was, us understanding the rules aspect of it. And I understood the waggle when I played in arena football. We had one person waggle. So it wasn't new to me, but being able to have 4 or 5 guys coming at you at once, that was new.
So contrary to popular belief, there's a lot that separates Canadian football from American football. And that takes us right back to the field it gets played on. It's 150 yards long, 65 yards wide, and the game itself is over 100 years old. But to Canadians, this is our field. Not to mention, our balls are bigger.
When we return on Celebrating Canada, Canadians are well known for being polite. Why is this? Find out after the break. You see the funny memes, and our neighbors to the south seem to have some fun with it, so CKPG wanted to have some fun with it too, as we went around the city of Prince George and asked this question: what's your theory on the polite Canadian?
Canadians have a reputation as easygoing, friendly, and polite people. We are often embraced by folks in other countries for that reason alone. Our friends down south usually poke fun at us for this, but we usually laugh right along with them.
Other typical stereotypes consist of living in igloos and pouring maple syrup on everything. However, in my personal experience, I do think the polite stereotype is true. There are some pretty polite people in this country, no doot about it. Here are some local thoughts on why Canadians are so polite.
There's a couple things. When you travel outside of the country, people recognize that you're from Canada when you end everything by hey or a. But there's also, I've had people come up to me and say, how come Canadians are so polite? And I just think it's the way we're brought up.
I've lived in lots of different spots in Canada, but I also grew up halfway around the world, and it's not just Canadians in Canada, but we're pretty known for being overly polite. We get made fun of, I think, for saying thank you too much and please.
But you know, as far as I'm concerned, and I think what it translates to here in Prince George is holding the door open for somebody, saying thank you, being kind, tipping our serving staff very well, and making sure that, you know, just as a society, we're looking out for one another.
Then, of course, there's the way out there thoughts as to why Canadians are so polite.
I think the weather patterns in Canada are just like so all over the map and so everywhere that, you know, we have to do something to apologize for the inconsistency in our weather patterns. I mean, just think about this time of year, as we're approaching summer season, we could have snow in the morning, we could have some rain, and then we could have some sunshine, and then return back to snow. If there's any reason to apologize for our weather, that would be it. I think that's why Canadians are so polite.
What it actually is that 0.5% of alcohol we have more in our alcohol. That's why we're so polite. It's that 0.5%. It's the difference maker.
I think Canadians are perceived as so polite because we had to be polite, because for hundreds of years we knew we would lose any war to anybody. So we just started being nice to people and helping each other out because we didn't want to be on anyone's bad side. So that's just rubbed off over hundreds of years, and now it's ingrained in who we are.
So whatever the reason may or may not be, it certainly benefits us, especially when we're out traveling the world. So from all of us here at CKPG, happy Canada Day. Thank you. 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 Thank you.
From coast to coast, there is plenty for us to be proud of, and especially here in northern BC. And today, we celebrate it. Happy birthday, Canada, and hope you all have a great Canada Day.